to cook gluten-free for best overall health. So, um, I am a foodie and I grew up around food all the time. My parents were vegetarian and we had a garden in our backyard. So I have many memories of us spending time as a family in the kitchen and in the backyard and cooking and eating lots of fresh foods. Well, after my parents divorced and my grandmother passed away in the same year, my food sources changed. And my mother started to buy more convenient processed foods because she had to work two jobs. She had to pay off private school tuition and she was raising three kids on her own at that time, and sometimes more than three kids, other people's kids too. And so there was less time to garden and fewer family outings, and so it became a lot for all of us. And I thought that food was food, and so I just soon became addicted to junk foods by the age of 8 years old, and I became very sick. And I had symptoms of poor gut health like constipation, bloating, irritation, and excessive belly fat and irritability, right? And over time, these things got worse, and I ended up with severe gut pain, trips to the emergency room, minor gut damage, and depression. And I went to doctor after doctor and test after test. And I wanted answers for my suffering. Um, when I started practicing holistic medicine professionally over 20 years ago, I used it to get rid of symptoms um, for my back, of back pain. But I wasn't sure what I had. I had colonoscopies, I had barium enema, CAT scans, MRIs, blood work, biopsies, and what did I have? After all of these doctors and things that I went through. So, like many of us with celiac disease or a gluten sensitivity, it's estimated that 99% of us never are diagnosed. And gluten is a group of proteins that is found in grains such as rice, barley, and rye. Gluten comes from the Latin word for glue, and there's lots of gluten in the standard American diet. So me, I'm gluten sensitive. I'm not. I don't have celiac disease, and I don't know from any of the 20 doctors that I saw, or the tests that I've done, or the biopsies that I've done, right? I did not know that I had celiac disease from them, from all that work with them. I learned that I had celiac disease from a book that I read by Dr. Peter Diadamo called Eat Right for Your Type. And for optimum health, he advises us for optimum health that we eat like our ancestors. And gluten was not a part of my uh, blood type O ancestors. Is anyone following a blood type diet, or have you heard of the blood type diet? So I followed this loosely in my late 20s and early 30s, cutting out most gluten. And I felt better and no trips to the ER. So that was great. And I thought, okay, I can have a little bit of gluten, but no, not at all. I found out that gluten is linked to more than 55 diseases. And there are over 200 medical conditions that gluten can either cause, contribute to, or make worse. Now, around age 30, I started to consume more of that standard American diet, SAD as the acronym, and more gluten, and then more gut issues, right? My gut health got worse, and I was unsure how my holistic practices could help back then. Um, Obviously, they were helping in a way of me knowing how to meditate and things like that, and we can talk about some stuff like that on another day. But I did start to seek surgical intervention for the minor gut damage. And I ended up with major gut damage after two botched surgeries. I then had an ileostomy installed, and this caused severe gut damage. So I went from minor to major to severe now. And I wore this ileostomy bag for almost 5 years while I repaired that damage. And I was put on a low residue diet, which is loaded with gluten. And I just got more gut damage. So gluten can cause structural damage to the gut wall. It's what I want definitely everyone to understand, right? And excessive gluten consumption can also cause excessive weight loss and excessive weight gain. So it was unbelievable the negative effects that this ileostomy bag had and that gluten had on my physical, my mental, and my emotional health. I suffer from depression, anger, anxiety, sadness, fatigue, brain fogs, and headaches. I had headaches every day, all day. And I wish I had only known about the dangers of gluten, but I went searching for answers to my problems. And I ended up reading a book by a functional medical doctor, Dr. Amy Myers, called The Autoimmune Solution. Now, functional medical doctors treat the body as a whole system of interacting parts, and they developed the 4R protocol to heal your gut. Now, it can take up to 3 years to recover from a gluten induced disease. Now, after I had this bag removed, I decided to go gluten free. And there was a trend in the food industry where where there were like a lot of gluten-free items on the market, and I would try a few. But there's another thing. Processed foods can be cross-contaminated with gluten up to 41% of the time. And have you heard of the 90-10 rule or the 90-10 principle? Well, I decided to follow that where 90% of my food will be from home cooking, from a strict gluten-free diet, and 10% will be from dining out at Chipotle or Pancho's vegan restaurant or trying other processed foods on the market that look safe. And so I went gluten free after 2 short weeks. Just after 2 short weeks, I was able to get rid of most of my symptoms of poor gut health. So I keep cooking gluten free. But here is another problem. As many as 92% of people who follow a gluten free diet continue to suffer from problems due to cross contamination, processed foods, and the consumption of corn, rice, and other grains. So I must, well, I should. Well, I must eat gluten free, but I should eat grain free. And I resisted this at first, and I suggested it to other people. I suggested that they go grain free because it's so much work. And if, but if I want to keep healing from my autoimmune disease condition, I need to be eating gluten free for sure and go grain free, or risk losing my life. It is possible to eat grain free and gluten free if you cook more from home. Now, do you have a gluten sensitivity, or do you have celiac disease? Do you think that you have that and you've never been diagnosed? Well, there are several ways to find out if a diagnosis is important to you, right? You can continue to eat a gluten, and you can get a celiac disease test with your doctor, which may or may not give you, all of your answers, because it may just be then a gluten sensitivity. So then you can just take a gluten sensitivity test, and I've seen one available at Walgreens, but there's a company that sells it. I forgot to write it down. I'll post it and everything. I'll have the link in the blog. So also, you can also, if you're looking for a diagnosis, try the elimination diet, where you strictly avoid common food irritants like gluten and grains for up to 30 days, and then adding in uh, those common irritants one by one to see which foods bring back your symptoms of that you were experiencing, of poor gut health, right? So for me, I already know there's no convincing me that I need to eat gluten free from all that I've experienced and the things that I have learned. And then me going gluten free for 2 weeks, and my symptoms improved. Well, I went gluten free, but my symptoms improved in just 2 weeks. So I had been suffering for over 20 years. So I hope to, I want to continue to eat and cook gluten free. And I wish that it was an easy thing, but gluten is out there everywhere. It's almost everywhere. And if I take shortcuts and choose processed foods or dine out, I risk being glutened. So my hope is to go back to gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, and grain-free starting in August. And people may ask, and have asked, and maybe you even ask, what do you eat? Well, think more plant-based foods. Um, you can choose from a variety, a huge variety of fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds that Mother Nature has to offer. Plus seafood, poultry, and meat, not red meat, um, but lamb and goat is enjoyable as well. So with cooking more plant-based foods, you may ask, what are my healthier options for red meats or bread? Or how do I buy this? How do I store it? And how do I cook it? And then where do I put the leftovers? So, to cook completely gluten free, You need to have the right systems and skills and organization. I was spending hours upon hours in the kitchen, planning, substituting, cooking, making no money, like unable to work, totally consumed by this because I was suffering way too much. And I did suffer much in the process, but I don't want that to happen with you. As a chemist, it was tough for me. And so I have an idea that it's also tough for you to eat, to cook totally gluten free, to go totally gluten free. So now home cooking is my best form of care, right? Best form of self care, and I want to empower you to take back control of your health with the essential skills that are needed for plant-based cooking. And I want to cook with you live Saturday, July 31st at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm teaching cooling summer salads. It's an interactive cooking class available, cooked via Zoom, right? We're going to be chopping, sauteing, blanching, making dressings, making different types of dressings and learning some cooking skills and some tips to reduce food waste. I'm going to show you some easier ways to just cook plant-based meals and save money and time and energy in the kitchen. Um, Now, with poor gut health, that weakens our immune system, but a poor gut health can be prevented with diet and lifestyle. Good gut health will improve your mood, creativity, productivity, focus. It will increase your energy, your longevity, and prevent disease. So come to the cooking class this Saturday and learn um, how you can empower yourself with these tools, skills, and organization to cook more plant-based meals. The class is happening Saturday, not this Saturday, next Saturday, 9 days from now, July 31st at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Cooling Summer Salads, an interactive cooking class happening via Zoom. So go ahead and click the first link in my bio, or click the link in my bio and click the first button to reserve your seats for the class before space fills up because seats are limited. I hope to see you there. We'll learn, we'll cook, we'll play some music, have some fun. I'll answer your questions live. There are two ways you can participate, by the way. You can just watch and learn, or you can prep and cook along. So there will be a prep kit that you will get as soon as you register, and it will be available for you to go shopping and prepare and watch out for more posts and tips on how to prepare, and definitely reach out to me for tips or any substitutions that you may need to do. And I'll see you soon. Thank you so much, everyone.